Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciated, truly is. Before we get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. It really helps me out and I really appreciate it. Finally, thank you to my subscriber, Charlie Rotten, for bringing this story to my attention. And with that, let's get started. So today we're talking about Ronnie Chasen. She was born Veronica Cohen in Kingston, New York in 1946. She was raised in the Riverdale area of the Bronx and then in Washington Heights in Manhattan. It's said that she chose the name Chasen after a famous Hollywood hotspot. By the 1970s, Ronnie had made appearances on the daytime soap opera Guiding Light and The Patty Duke Show before deciding to move to Los Angeles to pursue an acting career. When she arrived in LA, she began working for her brother, Larry Cohen, as a publicist for his company, Rogers and Cohen. She also briefly worked for the head of publicity for MGM. Former employees of Ronnie described her as a rare encyclopedia of knowledge of the industry, going on to say that she held the whole equation in her head. Ronnie had acquired a reputation for requesting doggy bags at fancy Hollywood events. People would remark about this all the time, but the truth of the matter is that the reason she would do this was so that she could bring the food home to her mother. This was a way for her mom to feel like she was part of the night with her daughter, which is sweet. Then her mother would sadly pass away in 2000. Other than a brief marriage when Ronnie was in her 20s, she never married and never had any children. She had a small but close-knit group of friends that were mostly women all around the same age as her. Okay. November 16th, 2010. Ronnie attends the Hollywood premiere of the film Burlesque, starring some of the best, including Cher, Christina Aguilera, Kristen Bell, Julianne Hough, and Peter Gallagher. As the after party at the W Hotel is winding down, Ronnie got into her 2010 black Mercedes-Benz E350 a little after midnight. She began driving down Sunset Boulevard toward her home. Police believe that she came to the intersection of Whittier Drive at about 12:28 p.m. Police believe it is here that 4 shots were fired into Ronnie's front passenger window as it slowed down at the light to make the turn onto Whittier Drive, where the homes cost upwards of $25 million. 2 bullets hit 64-year-old Ronnie Chasen in the chest without causing any immediately fatal damage. A 3rd bullet hit her in the upper arm, and a final 4th bullet hit her in the right shoulder, striking her heart. Ronnie didn't die immediately, though. She actually drove another quarter of a mile down the road, passing homes such as Neil Diamond's mansion, before finally stopping when the car hit a pole, crushing the front portion of the car and deploying the driver's side airbags. A couple that had been driving past found Ronnie within minutes of the attack, followed by the Beverly Hills Police Department and paramedics who were alerted when residents called 911 to report the gunshots. Police reports state that when they arrived on the scene, Ronnie was slumped forward with blood dripping from her nose, a gurgling sound coming from her mouth, eyes wide open but not blinking, and they were unable to locate a pulse. She was transported to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, where she would be pronounced dead at 1:12 a.m. In the days following the crime, there was a whirlwind of speculation around the cause of the demise of Ronnie Chasen that night. Everything from gambling debts, art deals, shady film finances, road rage, random drive-by, and a crime of passion. The following night, more than 100 of Ronnie's friends gathered at the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills to console each other and to remember their late great friend. More than 1,000 people showed up to Ronnie's funeral, including names such as Amy Pascal, who is the head of Sony Pictures, and astronaut Buzz Aldrin. Her final resting place would end up being a Jewish cemetery in Culver City named Hillside Memorial Park, alongside names such as Aaron Spelling, Milton Berle, and heavyweights Lou Wasserman and Al Jolson. Chasen had a lot of life to live, and she had it stolen from her. She had plans for the summer of 2011 to rent an apartment in Paris for 2 months that she would share with multiple different groups of friends. But that didn't happen. The question that still remains to this day, though, is, did Ronnie Chasen actually get justice for her murder? Or did the lack of homicide investigations done by the Beverly Hills Police Department aid in them messing this case up and going after the wrong guy? For context, there has not been a homicide investigation done by the Beverly Hills Police Department since 2011, and only 5 in the half-decade prior. I mean, it's good. Not long after the murder, a man by the name Lorraine would call into America's Most Wanted tip line with information about the case. Lorraine was a disabled punk musician that was living on government assistance on the 3rd floor of a complex named Harvey Apartments, which was located just a few blocks away from the Paramount lot in Hollywood. It's described as a nexus where most people were in their own world, usually because they were on drugs. The apartment complex catered to actors, writers, musicians, people with mental health issues such as schizophrenia, and 5-person families squeezing into 140 square feet. The only appeal of the rundown building was that the rent was $650 a month at the time. He says that his neighbor, 43-year-old Harold Martin Smith, was the person responsible. So it didn't seem out of the realm of possibility, since Smith had a pretty long rap sheet for crimes that included arrests for felony burglaries along with other offenses, but nothing like murder. In 1985, he had a burglary conviction in New York. In 1991, he pled guilty to second-degree burglary and was ordered to serve 6 months in jail and 3 years probation. Before his 1991 arrest, he had only been living in California from New York for about 3 months. Then in February of 1998, he was arrested in Beverly Hills and charged with 2 counts of robbery after snatching a woman's purse, and a second robbery where he broke a woman's jaw after she attempted to fight back. He pled guilty to 1 count and was sentenced to 11 years in prison. Then after his release, he was arrested by Manhattan Beach police for loitering and for possession of marijuana. Nothing crazy. Nothing like this. For this, he was placed on 3 years probation and fined $160. He was ordered to return to court after he failed to pay his $160 fine. He never showed up, and a bench warrant was issued for his arrest. So, what made Lorraine, the neighbor, call the tip line on his neighbor who he clearly liked? He says that Harold would constantly talk about how he wasn't able to pay his rent, had no money, and was considering unaliving himself. His suspicions only grew stronger when his neighbor that got evicted from the Harvey apartment 6 days before the murder asked his neighbor if he could store a few of his items in his place. He goes on to say that Smith arrived back at the apartment complex 90 minutes after the murder asking him if there was anything on the TV about what had happened and had the police been to the building yet. Okay, that's shady if it's true. The following morning, Smith was back at his neighbor's door asking if he could borrow $1 so that he could go get his bike that he left in Beverly Hills. Because Smith's only mode of transportation was his bicycle. Before leaving, he went on to tell the neighbor that he would be back in a few days, and if he failed to show up, it was because he would be resting in peace. December 1st, 2010, Beverly Hills detectives head over to Harvey Apartments to apprehend Smith. When they come face to face with him in the hallway of the complex, he's wearing jeans, a Hawaiian shirt, a green jacket, and was holding a Smith & Wesson revolver. Seemingly out of nowhere, Smith took the gun, held it up to his right temple, and himself through the brain. The bullet exited the upper left side of the head, hit some residents' mailboxes, and landed on the floor of the lobby. It would later be discovered that the that was used was stolen from a retired LAPD police officer 3 years prior to this. When they entered Smith's apartment, they found a box with 4 empty shell casings. December 8th, 2010, the Beverly Hills Police Department held a press conference where they announced that the bullet used to Ronnie is most likely the same one Smith used on himself. They go on to say that testing was being completed, but that they were 60 to 70% sure that it's the same and that Smith acted alone. I'm going to tell you what I think very shortly. When reporters pressed the detectives why a person with a record of robbery and whose mode of transportation was a bicycle could have acted alone with seemingly no motive, he didn't know Chasen and he didn't rob her that night. It would make more sense that Smith, a person that was desperate for money, would play the role of a hitman for somebody. But the narrative the police department was putting out makes 0 sense. It makes no sense. They didn't know each other. His only mode of transportation was a bicycle. If he was there to rob her, he didn't rob her. I don't buy it. The only things that make sense to me is that either number 1, they got the wrong guy, or number 2, he did it for somebody and he was paid for it already. When pressed more, the detective told the press that they have answered all their questions. And that they were only there to tell the public that the guns were a match. In July of 2011, police held a second press conference to say that after extensive work by the Beverly Hills Police Department, there is no doubt that Smith was the person that Ronnie Chasen and that he acted alone and that the case was closed. Okay, so this didn't sit well with the community, and for good reasons, because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. How did a man that rode a bike shoot into a person's car 4 times? There were no shell casings found. So what, did he pick the shell casings up? This is a very busy section and not a place where people rode bicycles. And please nobody take this the wrong way. But a black male riding a bike in this area at 12:30 in the morning would surely be noticed and probably stopped by police. He bragged to neighbors that he was paid $10,000 to Ronnie. He has said in the past that he would rather be dead than ever go back to prison. Why was there never video footage of Smith riding his bike that evening? And if there was CCTV footage, why was it never released to the public? And most notably, nothing was stolen. So people are calling for this case to be reopened. Beverly Hills Police Department says no, says that it's a closed case, that Ronnie Chasen was the one that did it and that he acted alone. That Beverly Hills Police say that Smith is the one that did it and that he acted alone. And that's it. It's closed. Okay, guys, if you're still here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you and I appreciate you so, so, so very much. Have you heard about this story? Let me know. What do you think? Do you believe Smith was the one that did it? I want to hear what you have to say. If you haven't liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. It really helps me out. I really, really appreciate it. And until next time, stay safe out there.